Kick off. So this is the last session of the day before a keynote speech. So around the world in 60 minutes. We've got three wonderful panelists here from three different areas of the globe. And this is going to be led by Abby from Distiller. So without further ado, I'm going to turn off my camera and my mic. And Abby, over to you if you want to just give a short introduction.
Yeah, sure. My name's Abby. I work at Distiller Music Group. So on Distiller Music Group, there's Distiller Records, we have Distiller TV, we have publishing. So we're kind of like an all-encompassing sort of music company. I'm the marketing manager. I look after all of the artist campaigns. We have a fairly sort of eclectic roster, so kind of ranging from indie to pop to rock. So covering a lot of different bases and lots of different fan bases. But it's pretty cool. So that's me. Shall we kick off with Anne?
Hi, my name is Anne Cavanagh. I'm founder and CEO of a company called Steereo. We are a music marketing platform that allows artist managers and labels get music directly into rideshare vehicles, so Uber and Lyfts. Our, mission or goal is to recreate the in-car radio experience. We are active across 92 US markets. One of the things that differentiates us from music streaming services is that our users, i.e. the drivers, are actually incentivized, which is paid to play. And we also aggregate not just distribution data, but also engagement data on the music side or the content side. So content owners or creators can actually see how content is being consumed. A couple of things that we've been working on over the last couple of months or since COVID hit is really thinking about how do we elevate our platform and provide more opportunity for our user base. And so two things that I think are probably of interest that we'll be launching into the new year is we've added a new user segment. So general consumer of music. So think early days, SoundCloud users, or a listener who's truly focused on music discovery. Again, we'll be incentivized to listen and discover new music. And then also we will be monetizing some of the streaming through Steereo. So artists will have not just an opportunity to earn from their Steereo activity, but also will be one of the first platforms that pay royalties out in real time.
Cool, thanks, Anne. How about you, Nando? I haven't actually met you before. Tell us about yourself.
Well, it's first of all great to be here. I'd like to thank Susan and Billy and everyone that made it possible. It's a fantastic conference. I don't know, are you able to see me now? I don't know, I've disappeared. Oh no, I'm back. Yeah, my name is Nando Machado. I'm talking from São Paulo in Brazil. I worked for many years in the music industry for different record companies. Most of them were major companies. And when I was working at Universal about 5 years ago, I realized that there were so many artists that needed a kind of support in terms of label services, especially marketing and promotion in Brazil. Either artists that were signed with majors that weren't having enough attention from their labels, but also artists that were independent that didn't want to license their music through majors anymore. Because the distribution side of it was sorted because of the digital platforms, but also because they were never prioritized by these companies they were licensed to. So I thought that a lot of artists, it made sense for a lot of artists, independent artists and labels, to hire their local teams. So when I left Universal 4.5 years ago, I started offering these label services to independent companies in the UK or in the US, in Australia. And we started representing labels like Beggars, Domino, Cooking Vinyl, PS, Caroline Records, and all artists that wanted to develop a career in Brazil. So we started, the more clients we're getting, we started hiring more people to try to offer a kind of a whole solution. So we have a radio plugger, we have a publicist, TV plugger. We have someone specialized in social media campaigns. We have someone looking doing the playlist pitching with the DSPs. So so we try to have this kind of complete structure, as if you would hire your own marketing and promotion team in the market. So we started working with a lot of all these independent labels, but also with artists that were touring in Brazil. So we could offer like a complete long-term plan, but also just a one activity plan, or artists that wanted to come to Brazil to do just a press conference or a TV show, or did they have like one day to do promo, we could organize that. So we could go from one specific activity to a whole year through different activities. So this is a bit of what we do at ForMusic, and we've been adapting ourselves to the new moment and focusing on online activities and digital partnership, but also through a lot of content or collaboration with local artists and local partners. We're missing our artists that used to come and visit the country very often. We are often working with a lot of artists that were coming to play at Lollapalooza or Rock in Rio. We're missing them a lot because of the shows, and this is what we have always encouraged our clients to come and visit the country for, play shows, play gigs, or do promo. But now we adapt ourselves and very much focus in social media campaigns and online campaigns and all kinds of campaigns, depending of whatever each artist needs at the time.
Yeah, sounds like loads going on. That's kind of like tapped into the first question I was going to ask you guys, which is thinking about promoting an artist into a new market from scratch. Like, what would be your tips and advice where to start now, I guess, throughout this weird period? Let's go to Anne first.
Yeah. So I think actually one of the coolest moments for me personally, while we were building Steereo, we had a brand new artist that was on the platform based out of Dublin, and I think it was like his first release. And so his song is playing in New York City, and he was able to not just distribute, but also be able to see the consumption of his music through his platform. So I think for us, because we're specifically focused not just on national and local distribution of music, but also how do international artists get their music into, UK artists into the US. However, I think, so I guess we kind of have a unique angle from just Steereo's perspective, because that's what we were set up to do. But I think what's been interesting to see is just how the artists are leveraging live streaming and different tools to be able to perform. I guess because I'm not specifically on the artist side, I'd be interested to hear, Nando, when you're working with artists from that capacity, are you seeing that there's a difference on international, easier to launch into international markets, or you're seeing different data sets around how audiences are consuming that type of content?
Well, it's first of all, we try to understand the kind of artists we're working with, the target audience that we want to reach, and what kind of partnership we should create in terms of, sometimes we can partner up with a local manager or a local artist that have more to do with that specific genre. But to give you to give an example of an artist that we started working from scratch here, that was completely unknown in Brazil. There's this singer-songwriter called Gavin James from Ireland, and we started working when he was just releasing like his first international single, and we found a sync opportunity for him at a very popular TV station called Globo here, and they have all these soap operas, these daily soap operas, and one of his songs was added to the soap opera. And then it started increasing the numbers on Shazam and streaming platforms. And we encouraged him to come and visit Brazil. So when he came to do promo here, we were able to get a lot of TV opportunities for him, and also added the song to a few radio stations, but also made it possible for him to participate of a scene of this TV soap opera. So he played for this romantic song for a couple when they are meeting again or something. But we have to try to be extra creative and very important to understand what each artist needs, because each artist or needs a different thing or develop or performs better in different environments. Like there are some artists that do well on TV, some artists that can do well on the radio, some artists that are more for the press. So we try to have a whole view of the range of possibilities with each artist before we start suggesting what we can do with them. I don't know if I answered your question, but
yeah, and I also, just to add to that, I also think that obviously social media is playing a massive role and sort of filling the gaps and the voids of where, you know, we could have basically done touring, events, festivals, etc. And obviously the use of sort of online marketing as well, because at Distiller, actually, we partnered with Steereo. So Anne and I worked together on I want to say the first virtual songwriting camp that happened ever. So basically what happened with that is that we had songwriters and producers from across 3 continents come together on Zoom for a week to basically write new tracks. And it was pretty bloody successful because we got 19 songs out of it. And it was just crazy to see how, you know, people from all over the world could come together on Zoom rather than, you know, meeting up in whatever country or together and all the expenses that come along with that. And we pretty much did it for next to nothing. And we got so much out of it. So I think going forward, I know people obviously want to be in the same room, but we've now figured out that we can just do it online. So that was really cool. But also, yeah, social media as well, because if you're trying to build like a new artist in a new sort of territory, I think what you need to look at first is how you're going to build a fan base in that territory, and how you're going to hit those audiences. So I think social media advertising is obviously going to play a huge role in that. So if you can nail that, then that's, you know, you've kind of kicked off to a good start. But yeah, so I'm going to ask a few more questions. So let's talk about sort of best practices for launching in new territories and key points to maintain an audience there. How about you, Anne? What do you think about that one?
So I think just even in terms of actually one of my founding team members is a Irish artist, moved to Los Angeles, and just thinking about like launching him into the US market, not just on a national, but also on regional, local perspective. I think some of the things that like worked, particularly with an independent artist that has low budget, right, or minimal budget available to them, is really like getting a lay of the land and who are the people who can elevate you from local perspective. So like just using Los Angeles as an example, there's a company called We Found New Music. I'm sure many of you have probably heard of them. Grant owns runs 2 live sessions a week. They're doing it virtually now, but is super plugged into the local market, right? So it's like finding partners in local demographic that are like that are just, you know, they're spread across live performances, radio appearances, and then any of the collaboration piece too. I think even, you know, so I think building that core foundation of local support to begin with, once you've identified the territories that you want to go into. And then actually something that you hit on, which I've been hearing more and more, particularly from the independent artist side, is like the collaboration piece of like just building out the network and the support from local artists and industry folk before you even get into the streaming side or putting the digital plans together, right? So it's like, who are your local playlisters? And obviously from like a touring piece, like, again, depending on who the artist's market is, from like college radio stations, I think obviously with how COVID has translated, something that you just hit on, Abby, is like we actually have been proudly given an incredible opportunity to be able to eliminate a lot of cost and logistical stuff that existed in the past, to be able to actually get in front of those audiences. So I think, I guess to summarize, what I would say is once you've identified a market, if you're working with, limited budgets, or, have to be resourceful, is like really getting a lay of the land of like who are the key influencers within the local markets that can assist you across your multi-channel strategy. So whether that's through, I guess now they're virtual live performances, but performances to playlisting to radio appearances, and then collaboration with local artists that again are going to pull you into all the places that you need to be to have a really strong presence, right? And I think also as well, actually, a lot of, I guess, international artists that are going through is like local trade associations too, right? So like anybody who's working in like the export side, again, that have the contacts for you through music supervisors or through the sync. But yeah, I guess those are some of the things that we kind of focused on, and then from that kind of leveraged press around getting him exposure locally too.
Yeah, I totally agree with the collaboration part of it, and since you both mentioned the song camp that you just did, is just a way of creating something that didn't exist before from scratch, and then you have the song is of course the first thing that should be thought of. But when I think about collaboration, I think it's key to find the ideal partner, because I've seen cases where you sometimes the immediate way of for an artist to find an ideal partner to collaborate with is to find the one that has more streaming numbers or more views on YouTube. But sometimes it doesn't necessarily work, because I've seen cases where we made artists perform or collaborate with an artist that was huge, and the other artist didn't do anything to help promote the song. So the most important thing is to find a real collaboration that could be pushing the song forward and having the same goals that you have. Like, for example, when you find a local artist to collaborate with, these local artists could become as if they were your eyes and ears in the market, and they could help push your music, and you can get his followers to follow you as well, and vice versa. So you have to find an artist to collaborate with that has the same goals that you have, but also maybe could help create things and maybe in the future these same artists could help bringing you to the market and perform shows together, or introduce you to local promoters, and you can do the same where you are based.
Yeah, for sure. And just kind of going off on that one, in terms of like the foreseeable future, no one knows what's happening in live, what's happening with festivals. It's just really all up in the air, isn't it? So we need to look at sort of new ways that we can basically do that online. Obviously live streaming is a big one now. I know, Anne, you just touched on that. But at Distiller, we're actually looking at live streaming in Japan. So we started talking to a Japanese promoter to kind of tap into the Japanese market, but also having a fixed event so that, we're still kind of making revenue, but, in different ways, because obviously our artists can't tour at the moment. So there are other sort of ways that you guys have been looking at, touring and festivals, whatever, and kind of, different events that you can do than that, basically.
I think for us, some of the things that we're kind of encouraging our artists to do is like exploring other tools. So like as an example, there's a new app called Needle.com. So essentially what they are is if you think about like old school radio when you used to call into the DJ, and I mean, it still exists now, but like when you go to school or work, and so what it does is empowers the artist to be able to host live concerts, acoustic versions of whatever their songs are. The listeners can call in, have conversations. It's a really great fan engagement tool. And then also on top of that, they have, I don't think it's launched right now, but they have like a tipping function, right? So it's like creating those like what would have been exclusive VIP or fan experiences that existed in real life, but in a virtual sense, I guess, in a way that's like fun and easy to engage with, right? So the technology is pretty seamless. So I think we've been focused more on like trying to encourage our artists to be able to leverage those type of technologies that will contribute to their additional income or their income, as well as give them that fan engagement in a unique way. On the ticketing side, I guess, again, it's like you saw everybody at the beginning of COVID, they were just doing Instagram Live. They're basically giving the goodies away for free, right? And then some companies, they were like awesome and quick to like start executing on like building out technology and features to be able to support the artist in that way. I think Bandcamp just released a ticketed feature in the last week or so as well, which is awesome. So I think one of the challenges that arise with, particularly with the independent artists that maybe don't have managers or like the experiences, sometimes they don't realize like around the positioning of pricing, what they should be charging, you know. So I think maybe what I would probably say to like that stage of artist is like, how do we support them? And you know, where do we send that type of artist so that they can get the information so that they're doing it properly, right? Because turning the camera on performing is one piece, but actually the positioning, marketing, and pricing is another, which many artists, I guess, don't have the experience or support around them to be able to execute on themselves.
Yeah, exactly. And also, obviously, the DSPs are like moving with the times as well. So they're always kind of bringing out new features on the apps that can enable indies basically to reach out to new audiences, and pretty much for free as well. And I know that YouTube is obviously on board with that, where they're doing, well, obviously you can do YouTube premieres, but there's also going to be sort of live streaming where there's like a merch function where you can, basically it's like a gig, and fans can actually buy merch on the same page. So that's really cool. And I just think, you know, they're all kind of adapting really well to the current situation, which is really positive. But yeah, Nando, you were going to say something, weren't you?
No, I was just saying that this is the main challenge that we see today. It's the situation that developing artists are facing, because it's easy for established artists to do a live stream and to sell tickets online. Of course, I'm saying easy, but not that easy. But it's easier, of course, for them than it is for developing artists and new artists. But I think that sometimes the government funding, or funding projects or cultural departments of the government, it's very important. We have a terrible situation in Brazil with the current government here. They're cutting all the money for culture or education or really important things. But we see great examples in other countries, like with the British phonographic industry, or in Australia, the government supports a lot of initiatives related to music in general. So I think that the main challenge here is the funding part of it, because this is the $1 million question: how do we make a small artist make money out of on the digital world, where you need millions and millions of views or streams to make a few bucks? So this is the main challenge. I mean, we have to partner up with maybe brands or they're interested in promoting new music or new artists, or developing projects or festivals that getting artists like that together and finding these artists that need the same thing, and create a group to do something. I mean, it's always about the collaboration again, and finding the partners that are on the same stage that you are, to putting a festival together might call more attention of a brand, for example, than just a isolated live stream session or something. But as you said, like in the beginning of the pandemic, everybody was playing from their house in their pajamas on Instagram for free, and now there's a very clear evolution of paid online events, and this is something that's it makes a lot of sense, because that whole Instagram live thing wouldn't last for long. But now we see the structure being made, and again, it's all about creativity. Creativity has never been as important as it is now in all terms, right?
Yeah, actually, I've noticed there's a company, I think they're based out in New York, called First Tube Media. But I've noticed, like, even brands that you would never expect, like Grubhub just did some like food sessions of like music. So actually it's interesting to see the trends of brands that maybe in the past weren't really engaged in music or had limited engagement in like music and performances doubling down now that it's virtual again, right? So maybe even from that is like the festival or the live streaming is like really looking into the brands that are specifically focused on the performances and the music side.
Yeah, for sure. Like right now, it's really important, isn't it, to get brands on side? And I think as this kind of carries on, they'll be more interested to sort of jump on the bandwagon and get involved as much as possible, because obviously everything's online now, and everything with music is online. So whether that would be to do with festivals or gigs, whatever, they can't physically be there, so they're going to have to kind of adapt to that and get online basically with artists and bands. But what I was thinking was, in Brazil, Nando, is there, apart from obviously live streaming as instead of being in physical festivals, physical gigs and everything, what is there anything aside from live streaming that's kind of kicked off in this Corona period that kind of stands out for you guys?
Well, it's difficult, as I said in the beginning. I mean, we saw a lot of established artists doing really these live events on YouTube with fantastic results and views, and making a lot of money with brand sponsorship. But even that started to fade, because people are at the same time kind of sick of watching things online, and these live streams, they're not that good, and I mean, now the new live streams that are made are completely different. We saw like Billie Eilish sold millions of tickets, or we saw the other day Bob Moses also did 100,000 tickets online. But here in Brazil, the main thing that was different was these live streams that started very early. Like we saw this article where 7 of the biggest 10 of the 10 biggest audiences on YouTube were live sessions coming from Brazil. But again, it was all coming from established artists that already had millions and millions of followers. I mean, touching again on the topic of social media campaigns, there are some initiatives that are really interesting, and social media campaigns can be really interesting because you don't have specific budget that you can work with. You can work with all kinds of budget. Even if you have a small amount of money, you can invest on something specific, and you can even do some campaigns without spending anything, more organically, looking for influencers or something. We have a close partnership with a company here that's just being launched called humans.com, humans with a Z in the end. It's like based on artificial intelligence, and you give them a briefing, and they find the best influencers to help you promote your music or whatever you want to promote. But this is being tested here. I mean, at some point next year, you'll be able to pay a subscription fee, and then you can create your own campaigns. At the time now, we have just people from the platform creating the campaigns. So it's an interesting way of working with influencers. And when I say influencers, it's people that have from 5,000 followers up to millions of followers. TikTok experience that it's a huge social network in Brazil, and it's a way that artists can, if you're creative, you can find ways of getting your content viral. But again, it depends on your creativity or your luck sometimes, or how the content that you create connects with other people, or has any kind of impact with other people. But I mean, it's something that didn't exist maybe over a year ago. There was not TikTok, and so I mean, there's so many things that are changing now, and we have to look at these new initiatives as something great, because I mean, I came from the world of majors where you had to sell CDs to make a living, and people would download anything for free on the internet. So the main people were saying that, oh, you should work on the live industry, you should stop working for a record company, you should go work for doing concerts or promoting concerts or promoting tours. And these are the people that have no jobs now because there are no tours. So I mean, you can never know exactly what's going to happen. But I think with the good advantage of the digital world is that you can plan something, even if you have a small amount of money. There's so many tools that you can use.
Yeah, definitely. And sort of going forward and looking into next year, you've had to alter your sort of strategies and marketing strategies, considering the fact that, you know, Corona might just stick around for a bit longer. What have you kind of got in place that you wouldn't have obviously had in place last year?
Sorry, I can start. In our case, it's very clear, because I mean, a year ago we had a person in our team that was in charge of helping to promote events. We partner up with the radio station. Whenever an artist that we work with came to visit the country, we would do like a showcase, a physical, of course, showcase with one of our partners, or a social media platform, or a showcase at Twitter's office or YouTube office, or something physical. And now, instead of that, we hired more people to create these social media campaigns, and it's just a matter of adapting. But we really hope that at least second half of next year we'll be able to have our artists visiting again. We really miss them.
Yeah, that's what I've heard as well, but who knows, right?
Who knows?
Positive around it. Exactly. Yeah. How about you, Anne?
I think to go to the first part of the question, like actually some of the cool stuff that I've seen over the last 6 months or so, I actually had a conversation with somebody last week who they own a gaming company out of Japan. And so they're launching a company for digital brands so they contacted us to see if any artists would be interested in doing digital merch. So essentially the gamers can buy the t-shirts for their characters or whatever. And I was like, yo, that's so cool. Like, and particularly they're looking for the independents and developing artists too, because obviously they're testing it out. But I think like getting really creative and thinking about ways like that's like positioning your brand within like content experiences, right? That like, I mean, who would have thought that it's essentially your coins or your badges that people are buying within their games. And then the other thing is, so one of our artists as well, his name is Glass Battles, is a LA-based artist, and through COVID, because he put a new song out, but because he wasn't able to do the video in person, learned how to animate, and essentially created an animated character of himself, and has been doing a series of videos around. And I can't remember, forgive me, but I just saw recently there's now like a label for virtual characters for artists who are creating like a character for themselves in the virtual world, and like they're being signed to the label. I was like, I think like the way that people are like getting creative around like alternative I don't want to say personalities, but like versions of themselves, and still being able to monetize on it has been incredible. I guess in terms of like strategy wise, again, a little bit different because we don't represent artists. We just have artists that use our product. But I think one of the things for us in particular, like we've had services frozen since March because rideshare was impacted so significantly. And so what we had to think about was, for us as a company, how are we not so dependent on just one market, but how do we translate what our core purpose is, which is that discovery moment for somebody who's consuming content. And so I guess for us, how we re-strategized is really around that consumer. So like, again, if we started off with the in-car moment of like when you're driving to, a football game or dropping kids off to work or on your way to school or whatever it is, and you hear that song and you're like, oh, how do we do that when people aren't in motion, right? But also not competing against Spotify or any of the streaming platforms, and still providing a platform that elevates the artist in that moment where you don't have to search through millions and millions of songs. So I think for us is really being focused, or how we've re-strategize is like really focusing on who is that consumer of content, who truly is objective versus subjective around the consumption of what they're listening to, right? So they have an appreciation for all of the different elements versus saying, I like pop, therefore I like pop songs, whatnot. And I think as well, like just as a company, because we are a promotional platform, after seeing, obviously everybody's gone through crisis since the beginning of the year, since COVID has hit, but really like how do we incorporate into our brand the ability for artists to be able to monetize their activity within Steereo, because many of the artists that are on Steereo are actually getting more exposure on our platform versus streaming. So just bringing in that monetization piece has been one thing that's been top of mind for us sooner rather than later. And that's something that we're currently piloting and we'll be rolling out hopefully network-wide through the new year. So if anybody who's on here and listening does have artists that would like to partake in that pilot program, we'd love to hear from you.
Yeah, that's really interesting what you said about the virtual characters. I haven't seen that. I'm gonna have to look into that myself because that sounds really cool. But yeah, just thinking about I know we've kind of touched on launching new artists into new territories and talking about that a little bit. How do you sort of envisage maintaining like an audience there once you've sort of launched in a particular, new market, Nando?
Well, it's the content side, as Anne was saying, it's the most important thing. It's a pretty obvious thing to say, but you have to increase your songwriting skills. You have to, the days when the artists were only thinking about the music are gone, about their songs are gone. So the artist needs to, if he doesn't have someone to do that for him, or manager or someone that can help him with, must look at the market as a wide range of possibilities, and starting with the songwriting and the releasing of content. You have to understand what your target audience like or listens to. So I mean, there's so many tools you can use, even if you're using Spotify for artists or the backstage area of Deezer. You can understand all the possibilities that you have, or the playlist that you can reach, even if it's not an editorial playlist from the platforms. You find a playlist that has songs that sound like your music. You can try to find the owner of that playlist and try to engage or send him something, or try to connect with the people that can maximize your exposure within the market. So you have to think 24 hours about all kinds of tools that are available and how you should use these tools in your own benefit. So because there are so many possibilities there, and but the first thing is to create the best content you have, and to keep releasing and keep feeding your audience with things that you suppose that they're interested in.
Yeah, actually, I think like exactly that is like really understanding who the audience is, right? And the cultural nuances of like, okay, how do you just not make it one song or one performance that they enjoyed, but you actually connect with them, not because you're like, oh, I want fans in Brazil, right? It's like truly the nuance around why and how people are connecting. And like that is actually chart metrics as well as like a tool we always try and encourage artists to use, is like truly understanding on a local base the lookalike audiences, the similar artists, the local playlisters, the different technologies on a local basis that are available to them.
Yeah, sorry, just to add something else. There's so many things when you're creating your content that you can think of to engage with a particular audience. Like, for example, I saw a Bell and Sebastian concert many years ago, and they played a Mutante song, which is a classic Brazilian band from the 60s. And everybody was crazy about it because they played it really well, and nobody was expecting that. Even Bruce Springsteen, when he played here in São Paulo, he opened the show with a song written by an iconic Brazilian songwriter. So I mean, if you want to reach out, for example, to Brazilian audience, just an idea is like try to find a classic Brazilian song that you can maybe record a version of, and then it's something that will for sure call someone's attention. And so it's always about the content side of it. It's more and more important.
Yeah, for sure. And I think when you kind of just mentioned like Bruce Springsteen there, it made me think, like, in your opinion, do you think it was easier then to break artists into new territories, or now when we've got all the social media and online strategies, what would you say? Or is that an obvious one?
No. I think that it's a good question, because when I started in the music industry, there were like, I think, 6 major companies. And if you're not signed with any of those major companies, it will be very, very difficult to have a career. So if you're not playing the kind of music that those A&R executives wanted to hear or wanted to release, you're probably lost. You wouldn't have ways of developing your career if you weren't signed with a big major company. And even to record an album, it will cost maybe $20,000 to record an album in the 90s, or to record even worse, to record a music video, you need to hire a production company. It would cost another $15,000, and you need maybe 2, 3, 4 music videos, and you need to get it on MTV, because if you're not on MTV in the 90s, you wouldn't have a career. So I'm an optimistic person, and I think that today there's so many possibilities and so many ways of, you can even, I mean, of course you still need money to do things, but you can have your own home studio. You can record your music. You don't even need a band to record your music. You don't even need session musicians. You can, that's the good part of it, is that anyone can do it, and anyone can record a music video using a telephone. But the difficult part of it is that, as everyone can do it, the amount of music that's been released, it's much bigger than before. So the main challenge is, how do you get attention out of millions and millions of songs that are being released every month or every week? So it's I think there's so many more possibilities today, but so that's why you have to improve your songwriting skills, improve your production skills, work with better people, or learn. The more you learn how to make better videos, or how to use these tools in a more in a better way. So all these things can help, like getting more audience, increasing your audience and number of followers anywhere in all these tools. And you have to be present in every single tool. You have to have your music on all DSPs. You have to use all social media platforms and take advantage of all there is.
Actually, just talking about the data piece, there's also a very cool tool called Clipfolio, KLIP. So essentially what it is like a dashboard that you can build yourself, so you can plug in your social media, your newsletters, your so all of the different things to be able to read audience from one dashboard versus having a multitude of different, you can even plug in your workflow piece. So if you're working around a release in Brazil, let's say, and you have all of you can track everything through it. And it's I think there's a monthly fee, but actually I saw somebody ask recently again around, well, there's like all of these tools. And again, the emerging or developing artists in some cases to read all of the data is hard, right? So it's like, how do you just create? But yeah, for me, what I've seen is like, even from a business and from a music perspective, it's been a really great tool.
Yeah, we've just done the same kind of. We've partnered with this company called Campaign Amp, where you can literally just see all of the data in real time in one place. So it's just so easy for like everyone in the business or the artist just to see, you know, the successes and all of the DSPs plugged in, all of the social media plugged in, or the radio or the PR. So every team that's involved, and it's just, yeah, really easy and all in one place. So yeah, they're really good tools. Do you use tools like that in Brazil, Nando, to kind of look at all your data in real time?
Yes, definitely. We have this service called PlayX here in Brazil. It's PlayAX, and it's like they service your song. It's also based on artificial intelligence, and they service the song to a lot of radio stations that similar to the music you want to promote. So they find the potential, the radio stations that could potentially play your song, and they service that, and they also monitor who downloaded it or who opened the email, and they give you the information. You can reach these people and send them a personal note, and they also monitor all the social media activities, they give you graphics and all the data that, you know, combining to the radio campaigns and how it increased after you did a specific activity, or if you service a song or the song started playing at a specific radio station, it gives you the results that the impact that it had, or either on DSPs or Shazam or social media. So all these tools are great, and I think there's Play MPE does also something similar about servicing music to radios and other players. We also have used a platform called Sound Charts, which also monitors the song that's being played on the radio. And so I'm really curious to know more about the ones that you recommended here. I just opened all the sites that Susan is sharing with us here. So I'm really curious, and thank you for sharing, because every day there's something new happening, and we have to continue continuously researching and finding new ways of working with these tools.
For sure.
Yeah, I think we've got time for one more question. So just talking about Corona again, everyone's favorite subject. I guess, in what ways, like, what are the opportunities that can be used to our advantage now that, you know, this has sort of happened and ongoing, and we don't know basically where the end is? Yeah. So what do you think the main opportunities, the main advantages have come out of that in the music industry?
I think for me, one of the things that I've observed that's been really interesting is I think that there's more value that artists are now placing in themselves than they did before Corona. So if you use the Instagram live as the example. At the beginning, everyone's like, I just want to go on Instagram live because I want to engage with my audience and I'm going to do it every single day. Now they're like, okay, actually, I want to get paid for that. And like, they're thinking about merch now more than what they were before. And instead of maybe those 10,000 followers that weren't truly engaged with them on social media, the 1,000 that are engaged are more important. So I think there's more value put behind like the fan base, the real fan base that they have, and like putting more value and becoming more astute around like having a product to sell outside of live performance, right? So I think it's been really cool to observe that, because I feel like it's an awakening to some extent. And I think as well, like, you know, I think from an industry perspective, everybody's become a little bit more patient with each other, right? And like more empathetic. So I think that's been really cool as well, where it's like to see like relationships evolve and form. So yeah, I think those are some of the benefits that I've definitely seen through COVID. And I think as well, it's like a lot of companies are like immersing themselves in the educational piece too, right? So it's like, how do we empower with information? So yeah.
Yeah, I think that the only advantage that we have with these whole new situations is that everybody's on the same page and everybody's facing the same challenges, and so it's the first time in history where we all have the same pains and problems, and so everybody's trying to solve these problems in a proactive way. And you guys just mentioned about 10 great initiatives of new tools that can be used to promote your music, but also all these meetings. Maybe we wouldn't be here if it wasn't for COVID, and I wouldn't have met Anne or Abby, and it's great that we are able to travel the world. I have a meeting with we were able to work with even more labels now from more parts of the world now than we used to maybe a year ago, because everybody's looking for them. They are trying to find new markets and develop their artists in new artists, so in new markets. So we work with labels from South Africa or Scotland or Canada and Australia, New Zealand, and things that maybe wouldn't be happening before, because nobody would be thinking about how to promote their music in Brazil. But I mean, that's a good thing if we can think of Brazil had become a very key market, because it's a large country. We have 210 million people living here, but it's at the same time not as expensive as promoting your music in the UK or in the US. And the advantage is that the other day I was participating of Big Sound in Australia, which is a great conference, and there's Sim São Paulo happening totally online, which I invite you all to participate. I'm part of the board of the conference, and we'll also have Rio Music Market in December happening in Rio, totally online. So the good thing is that, I mean, you just mentioned a great initiative, the Song Camp. This is something that's totally possible to happen online. We organized a couple of song camps here for publishing companies that needed help in terms of the production side, the logistics and all that, hiring a studio, booking a hotel, or getting catering in, or all this. We have done that, and now you can do that yourself. You don't need anyone to organize that. You can just open a Zoom link and send a random message to an artist that you appreciate in the other side of the world, and if he replies, and you guys can write a song together, and things that again wouldn't happen if we weren't in the same situation. And we have to be optimistic and think that a lot of us will, as Anne was saying, the empathy, it's such an important thing to understand how the other one is feeling, and what can be done for us to help each other, because the other one is feeling the same way you are. We're all frustrated because we can't travel. We're all frustrated because we can't attend any shows. I used to go to 3-4 concerts a week, and I kind of I'm stuck. So, but I think that we all are. So that's the sharing part of it. It's so important, sharing information and sharing knowledge and experiences and you know, I mean, I talk to Abby and Anne as if I know you for you know, years or something. So it's the possibility of expanding in all ways that this situation have created. It's amazing.
Yeah, definitely agree with you, Nando. It's funny, isn't it? Because you could just be like talking to whoever on the other side of the world, like you've known them for ages, and like the collaboration that is possible is just really amazing at this point. And it's kind of cutting like expenses, it's cutting time, you know, having to fly to X, Y, and Z. You can just jump on a Zoom. But then there is the flip side where you do miss being, you know, face to face with people, and as you said, going to gigs and festivals and all the rest of it. So I think going forward, obviously, it'd be amazing to get all those, you know, in-person events back. But I do foresee, you know, meetings taking place on Zoom, songwriting camps on Zoom, and all the rest of it. So, yeah.
But I still hope to visit you, visit Susan in Glasgow. I've never been to Scotland. I love to attend the conference physically. But yes, it's great to be here. But it will be even better when it's possible to see you see you all in person.
Yeah, for sure. I think a lot of great points raised in that session. We are just drawing to a close, but I just wanted to say thank you. And just on a point as well, like, you know, the sort of thing that came up about you know, global collaboration and that writing camp being the perfect example. And Nando, you were talking about people in different territories getting behind the same project, and it gives it much more of a powerful voice when there's people in different corners of the globe shouting about it. So I actually just put in the chat there, if anybody would be interested in doing a sort of global songwriting camp, then give us a shout. A producer from Aberdeenshire, a hip hop producer called Nick, he said he would be up for it. So, you know, there's people out there who are willing. I think it's just it's you know, that affirmation that, you know, you can do it and it is possible, and it is just a case of finding someone that you like or you aspire to be like, and, you know, connecting with them. And if we can be facilitators and making that happen, then all the better. But yeah, that was a really great example, so thanks so much for bringing that up. I guess just it would be nice to actually just round things off, and just conscious of the time. If you could give one sort of piece of advice in a sentence for maybe artists who are maybe looking to break into a new territory, like what would, in one sentence, like what would you say is the main thing to sort of focus on, if that's a good question?
I think from my point of view, I'd say definitely try and nail social media, obviously organically, but the ads part of it, geo-targeting specific target demographics in whatever territories you're trying to hit, looking at similar artists and tapping into their fan bases. So yeah, start off with that, I would say, social media.
I think mine would be like get to know your local market, like who are your key people and your influencers there who are going to help you elevate and support your strategy once you execute.
Yeah, I think that very important, apart from what they have already said, it's to keep increasing your songwriting skills, keep increasing your production, get to know more people, expand your network, reach out to whoever you think can help you, or either an artist or another player in the market, and take advantage of the tools that are available there, and never stop learning.
For sure, that's a great point to end on. You mentioned a couple of conferences that were coming up, I think, in Brazil. Do you have, if you have links to them, or you can find links, if you want to post them in the chat, I think that would be really beneficial for everyone, and, you know, just pointing on the point of never stop learning. So I think trying to encourage people to attend as many of these virtual events as possible. I'm going to stop talking, but that is us at time. Just wanted to thank Abby for leading that session, and Nando, thanks so much for getting involved as well. Your knowledge is so informative, and it's very much appreciated by myself and all of the other people. Thank you for coming in there. So thank you so much, and we'll hopefully see you in a physical at some point in the future, you know, if it's next year or time after that, we look forward to it. But thanks so much for your time. If you want to just click the leave section in the top right hand side of your screen, and we'll catch you soon. Thanks so much.
Awesome. Thank you.
Bye.
Thank you so much. Bye. Nice to meet you, Abby and Nan.
Bye.